Blizzard versus Grinding Gear Games and Path of Exile 2. Let's see who wins.
There's a riveting tale of two titans here. One is setting itself up for tremendous success, while the other released and has been clawing its way back into the good graces of its players for the past year.
Diablo 4 has failed. It has no place to compete with Path of Exile, Path of Exile 2, or The Last Epoch. Absolutely no place. The reality is, Season 4 was the nail in the coffin. People are maybe gonna return to this game for an hour or two. After watching the Season 5, trailer, recap, or whatever it was, I am firmly convinced that I'm gonna play for at least a solid 2 or 3 hours of Season 5 and then not play it again. Because this game has been done. It has been made too easy. This game is not even recognizable from what it was when it launched, and that's not necessarily a good thing. All of the open world map, completely deleted. All you do now is just play in a Helltide and call it a day. That's not great design in my opinion. And it's not great design in a lot of people's opinion. And Diablo 4 has went exactly the same way that Diablo 3 has went. AKA, it launched, there were issues, Blizzard did insane stuff, 90% of the player base left, and that's it. Now seriously, Diablo 4 videos currently are getting, no matter positive or negative, roughly 1/3 of the views they previously got. Because the interest has completely dried up. No new people are interested in this game, and, it's just already being forgotten by the vast majority of people. Sad.
Of course, I'm talking about Path of Exile 2 and Diablo 4, two of the biggest ARPG discussion topics of our generation. In the historic past, it used to be Diablo 2, Torchlight, Titan Quest, and other games. Recently, it was Diablo 3 and Path of Exile. Last Epoch has broken onto the scene, but even that game, with its incredible player numbers and its deep customization, has not driven the same sort of hype that the unreleased Path of Exile 2 and the very much in progress Diablo 4.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. In a lot of these discussions, people just don't understand the world. Blizzard is a company that has existed for 30 years now or something, with massive fan bases. Diablo was the original thing that made hack and slash truly popular, and Path of Exile has literally had 10 years to become good. And keep in mind, a lot of people did not think Path of Exile was good in the first 4, roughly. I played it from the very start, where Act 3 was the end and Dominus was not even the last boss you kill, and it was just piety. Holy! Okay, there's a huge difference in that, boys. How times change. And people are writing off Last Epoch so fast, even though it literally has not been even out for, half a year at this point. It's kind of crazy.
And I'd like to talk about both of those games today, and how the developers are creating them in different ways from the outset. There's a long story here, but I'm going to try to condense it down into about 10 minutes. We'll see how I do. And if you like listening to these type of stories, and if you like all the latest Path of Exile 2 content, please make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and that sub notification bell so you get all the latest Talk to Try content. Also, haven't done it in a while.
Never hit the sub notification bell for me, by the way, boys.
Absolutely a massive thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and my YouTube members. You are all phenomenal. Now, without further ado, let's get into the tale of Diablo 4 and Path of Exile 2 and how they have been developed differently, beginning in their alpha phases. Diablo 4 was in progress for quite some time. Diablo 3 didn't really pan out. It launched, it had one expansion, and not many content updates after that. It was not a competitor to Path of Exile 1 in terms of the amount of content that it actually brought into the game. Sure, it probably had phenomenal player numbers, but a lot of people
Actually, it had a bunch of content updates.
sought more from a Diablo game. Cue Diablo 4, which was in development for a long time and had a lot of different stages to it. It had game directors come and go, developers rise and fall, and the game itself went through many iterations. But when it was finally announced after the Diablo Immortal fiasco, the developers began being a lot more open with what systems were going into the game and how they were designing items and monsters and classes and the like. And when it was getting super close to that finished state back in 2023, or a finished state in the eyes of Blizzard, Blizzard invited a bunch of hardcore Diablo players to test out the game. That includes content creators like Rax and Woody Joe and lots of people whose names you don't know. Because instead of making content, they spent their time absolutely blasting through Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, and probably other ARPGs as well. Blizzard invited all of these people to test out the campaign, the end game, the feel of the classes and the items, all the different interacting systems.
Man, is he trying to throw dirt at these people because he's trying to say, oh, they gave their feedback and it was great. They thought that the game was good. Hell no. One of the big things that we know now is true about Diablo 3 is the fact that when it launched, they knew about all of the problems of the endgame, the itemization, the everything. We now know that Blizzard chose to ignore all the player feedback who actually got to play the game. They legitimately chose to just ignore it. All the people who played it until 60 and whatever, no, not 60, 100, or, close to that of the actual endgame, they all said the same exact thing, and Blizzard was like, no, it will be fine. Don't worry.
And from what I've heard from some inside sources and lots of public knowledge, these people, the testers, wrote novels on how to improve the game.
Yeah.
Exactly how to do it. They've been playing Diablo games for a while. They've been talking to people in the community, creating content, reading comments, knowing what people enjoyed. So they crafted all of these recommendations into literal tomes, sent it to Blizzard. Blizzard just ignored it. They moved forward with their vision, and they released Diablo 4 in the state that they thought was best. Now,
to be fair, what do you want from the guy who's responsible for Diablo 4, who destroyed Halo before this? Well, not much.
In early 2023, when they had that very closed beta, basically a press weekend, everybody thought the game was in a great state. But some people...
Do you know what's crazy about these locations? Does this even exist in game? I have not been there if it does. Like this tree. Where is this tree? I have never seen it. Where is this? Does this exist? Wait, actually, maybe I have seen it. But yeah, all of these locations that they show, it's like, maybe it's the different camera angles. I think this is, well, I think I know where this is, but still.
The game was in a great state. But some people, content creators, testers who had played the alpha, knew what was to come. And sure enough, when it released in June of that year, people were very disappointed in all the problems that it had. The lack of endgame, the item systems, the classes, the balance, all that was broken. People didn't enjoy it. And for the past year, Diablo 4 has spent its time getting into a better state, really clawing its way back into the good graces of the people, as I said at the start of the video. And you know what
this is the big problem with Diablo 4. They release game, they ignore feedback, people hate it, they continue making game bad and bad and bad and bad for multiple seasons in a row, and then they decide, wait a minute, we're still losing players. Let's listen to the community. But the problem is the people who are left in the community are notorious shit-eaters. There's no other way to describe this. They're just notorious losers. Because they have been eating this slop constantly and they liked it. Everyone else left. You don't no longer have their opinions. And now you're listening to the people who are literally just gonna sprinkle a little bit of that sesame sauce on, a pile of dung and eat it like there's no tomorrow. And this is the opinions now Blizzard is listening to.
Funny thing is, a lot of these problems were pointed out exactly by the testers. They said there are problems with items. You need to build out your endgame to compete with other ARPGs today. You need to have bosses. The balance is whack. The feel here is poor. Oh, The open world.
Well, to be fair, it's your fault for expecting Blizzard to actually balance a game at this point. It's not happening. It has never happened before. It will never happen.
What's the point? And for the past year, they've been addressing all of these concerns, tackling them, trying to become a titan once more in the industry. And they've done a great job. People enjoy season 4, even if it's not what I enjoy. Lots of other people really do like it, and many are excited for
The people who like season 4 are mouth breathers, not gonna lie.
Diablo 4, the Vessel of Hatred as well. So we'll see how that goes. But now, after talking about Diablo 4 and looking at that journey, let's take a look at what Grinding Gear Games have done with Path of Exile 2's early testing phases and how they've reacted to feedback in the lead up to launch. GGG has been cooking Path of Exile 2 for a long time, probably longer than Blizzard cooked Diablo 4. However, during this time, they have iterated on their vision in many different
But is it longer than Starfield? That's the real question. Is it longer than Starfield? That took 10 years.
instances. They even split out Path of Exile 2 from Path of Exile 1, turning it into its own game. And only recently has it really been opened to people outside of Grinding Gear Games and their immediate family and friends.
Well, they needed to actually do this because the Path of Exile bloat is just too large at this moment. New people cannot come in because if new people want to do the end game, they either need to be brainless maggots and just follow a guide made by someone, that tells you step by step what to do, and you have absolutely no idea why you're doing any of that, or you need to read 15 light novels of how itemization works, what interacts with what is a multiplier, what is not, and so on, which is crazy dumb.
Friends for testing. And even at Grinding Gear Games itself, they were open to changing their design, their philosophies, their vision, and reacting to feedback. Jonathan Rogers, the game director on Path of Exile 2, talked about how he played PoE 2 with
PoE 2 looks so good at the moment.
With his wife, or he watched his wife play. And she wouldn't know when her life was low and she'd end up dying. She was good at the fights, she enjoyed it, but she would just die and not use her flasks because she didn't know that she was about to fall. Well, so they made changes based on that. Now you have a red outline around your screen. It slowly starts to darken.
I don't like the red outline, I'm not gonna lie.
And get red. There are all these subtle cues and design additions that they've made to respond to even the most minor pieces of feedback.
Which is good.
And now that other people are playing Path of Exile 2, first in the event in March of this year, and then again in June, they're making huge design decisions. They're going back on things that they thought would feel good and they were wrong about. And they're reacting to community opinions about other games. We mentioned last Epoch before, Grinding Gear Games is implementing sort of a auction house in Path of Exile 2 because of...
Yeah. This is what I said about last Epoch. Even if it absolutely accomplishes nothing and does not get a single new player in it and completely fails, it will push forward a lot of systems. The trade systems, it just pushes forward systems. And this is what I like about all these games that take risks. Because even if they don't succeed, they don't get a player base. By the way, Path of Exile, last Epoch is a 100% success. But still, even if a game takes risks and creates something new and it completely fails, you have introduced a new system that will probably at some point lead to a different game appearing that has iterated or using the same system that is better than the previous systems.
The success of last Epoch's trading system. And in the March event, when people saw that the flask system felt horrid, it felt like you were backwards progressing constantly, in June, the new build...
Oh yeah, the flask system previously was like, okay, you can only get flash charges from, not basic mobs. And that's so dumb. At least, at the minimum, these systems never work because when you have mana, it becomes an issue.
Fix that.
And it feels especially bad in the early game because in the early game you have no mana regeneration. You are reliant on a flask for almost every class in any game.
Entirely. And now in the June playtest, people are talking about wanting to dynamically be able to switch between mouse and keyboard and a controller. So Grinding Gear Games is going to implement that. Now, there are
Nice.
many other examples that I can think of and talk about to do with Grinding Gear Games and the way they react to feedback, but I don't want to make this a 3.5 hour video. Instead, I just want to get the point across that the way that Blizzard and Grinding Gear Games operate is very different. Blizzard even presented with novels of evidence about the design of their game being wrong and not appealing to players, will refuse to change unless the bottom line does not showcase profitability. If those average player numbers drop, if those concurrent users fall away, then and only then will they back off on their decisions, or at least that's what we've
Blizzard is just a bunch of hacks and idiots.
seen with Diablo 4. With Path of Exile 2, which isn't even in early access yet, the developers are already pivoting on decisions they've made based on the feedback of their most avid players. Of the players,
By the way, did they already do this? Because I have not been following the changes. Did they do this? Because I'm very interested. I predicted one thing, that they are gonna remove the movement of a couple of abilities. For example, the one where you call down a meteor, I think, or something like that. It has an inbuilt movement when you go back. That is not gonna stay. That is so bad. Skills that you push you backward are notoriously never used in any game because there's simply no way to actually make it so that the backtracking, the moving back is ever good. So that's something that they're gonna change 100%.
that speak for the community. Like myself, Jonathan Rogers called me the most positive person in the universe because when I played Path of Exile 2 in March of this year, I was very open about the fact that it didn't feel very good. It felt janky. It felt like I was always going backward and I wasn't progressing. And that was mostly due to the flask system and the fact that I wasn't getting good item drops. So they fixed both. They put item seeds into the game. They gave you more access to support gems and skill gems. They
Nice.
made it so that flasks now refill.
Dude, giving access to skill gems in PoE is so important. Because if you play PoE, you know that this is 100% the undeniable truth of the world. PoE doesn't have classes. There's no such thing as an actual class in PoE unless you're doing something very specific, like a minion build. So you have to go Necromancer or whatever. Wait, is minion build Necromancer even the strongest, or is something random just the strongest again? I don't know. Anyway, the point is, Path of Exile doesn't have classes. The true way that people play Path of Exile is they look at a skill that they want to use, and then they pick the class with the most multiplier bonuses to that skill gem. That's it. That is how people truly play this.
When you kill normal monsters again, so you don't always have to go back to that well. It felt so much better in June, and that was a direct result, not just of my feedback, even though I do pride myself in giving some good feedback to Jonathan and the rest of the team, but due to the feedback of many other players. And that is such a stark difference, and it's great to see. Now,
Holy, look at that. I did not see this before. Equipped. Oh, this is so nice. Because while you're leveling, it's sometimes so hard to actually you sometimes get lost. Is this the thing I have equipped now or not? Dude, this is so nice. This is so good.
other players. And that is such a stark difference, and it's great to see. Now, when we get our hands on early access later this year, when legions of us are playing in Ray Class 2.0, playing as
Anyway, pretty interesting, yeah. Blizzard, I don't know. It doesn't matter even if they actually like take the feedback into account at this point. I think they're cooked. Diablo 4 is gonna fade in absolute irrelevance, and that's it. Path of Exile is gonna keep on trucking, and I have high hopes for Path of Exile 2 because it's gonna be great. Anyway, that was Talkative Tra, and this was Kuzer Said, bye!